interest rates coming down anytime soon? Interest rates would come down if the job market continues to get worse, yeah? The problem is if unemployment rises and inflation rises, they can't really lower interest rates. Did you see his revised numbers from today? Who? Job numbers? Wait, Trump put out new job numbers?
Just a quick session with Steve Moore. Everybody knows Steve Moore with the Heritage Foundation, highly respected. I'd like to ask Steve maybe to discuss a few of these numbers that were just released. I mean, literally just released.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I called the president because I had some very good news from some new data that we've been able to put together that no one has ever seen before, and I'll just very quickly go through these. So this shows that over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. That's a, Mr. President, that's a gigantic error. And I don't know if she's, I'm not
making it. It might not have been an error, that's the bad part. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Whether that, you may well be right, but even if it...
What? Okay, this is so confusing because he was mad because they just did the same thing to him, though. They overstated his jobs numbers and they revised it down. For 6 months, they've been putting out jobs numbers that are good for Trump, and then they revise it down. And they did it for Biden as well. I mean, by the way, this is not a new number. I don't understand this new number just coming out today. This is the revisions. We talked about this on stream back when they happened in it was like a month before the election. This is not new. The case I made was because of the birth-death model they use, which is that it's getting confused by new companies that are just OnlyFans and Uber. I just want to be super clear. Nobody can gaslight me on the timeline here. This is the timeline. The BLS puts out data in June and July that say there's a lot of good jobs and Trump is really happy. Okay. And then in August, they go, oops, and we overstated that. There's actually not that many jobs. And then he fires that person. Okay. The timeline is not that Trump was like, you know what? I think they're consistently overstating jobs and it's not right. We need more accurate, lower numbers. He was mad that they revised it down. He wasn't mad that they were too high. They gave him bad news and he fired him. It's not. Stephen Moore is the author of 6 books, including Trumponomics, Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Oh, good. Yeah, fire the head of the BLS and get the guy who wrote Trumponomics. That's the unbiased source. Okay, there's more. Wait, there's more. I thought they called a press conference to say the BLS overstated numbers under Biden, which they did, but they also did it for you. It wasn't a political thing. It was the fact that they have this. Here, I just want to explain it one more time. I'm sorry if you've already heard me say it on the podcast or whatever, but I forget if I've said it here and I have to explain it. Bureau of Labor Statistics. They send out surveys all over the country to try and get an estimate of how many jobs there are, okay, of job growth. It's a pretty inaccurate, hard to do system. It's very hard to track the jobs of 300 million Americans. It's not easy. Previously, historically, they would sometimes undershoot and sometimes overshoot. However, recently, they've been always overshooting. Now, you could say that is because they've become biased and they want to make Biden and Trump look good and they've been overstating. However, I think more realistically, the reason they've been overshooting since the 2020s is because of the rise of gig work, because of the birth-death model. What that means is it's not about actually people being born or dying. It's about companies being born or going out of business. When a company is born or created, they estimate how many new jobs that will be because they can see registrations. So there's 100 new companies. On average, a company hires 7 people. So there's probably 700 new jobs this month. The birth-death model is based on the average number of employees for a new company and how many new companies. That's sort of the idea. The problem is post-2020, they're still using this higher multiplier. But most new companies, there's like 10,000 new companies, are one person. It's somebody setting up a company for their Uber or for their OnlyFans or to stream stupid economic news on Big A. The problem with the birth-death model is it's estimating there's going to be a lot of new jobs created because there's a lot of new companies. But all the new companies are like single person. I think it is a really strong argument as to why they've been so consistently wrong. Is because we're seeing an upsurge in new companies, but not an upsurge in new hiring. The other thing that's not related to Uber or OnlyFans or anything new is that just in general, the BLS tends to overstate jobs consistently going into a recession. Now, that's obviously my claim. I'm not saying it's guaranteed or proven or factually, but the last time they were consistently overshooting was in 2007.
We have access to some data that no one else does on what has happened month by month with median household income. This is based on unpublished.
They have access to data that nobody else does that says that real median income is skyrocketing. I wonder why nobody else has access to that data.
Census Bureau data. It will be released sometime in the next 6 months, but we get an advanced look at it. And so I was telling the president in his first 5 months in office, starting in January through the end of June, the average median household income adjusted for inflation for the average family in America is already up $1,174. That's
an incredible number.
Yeah.
Just came out.
Just came out, huh?
So that's.
I hadn't heard this one. This one is not track with what I've been seeing. This one sounds entirely fabricated. I really don't think that's true. I don't hear that from people, that they feel like they're getting richer. I wonder what because they always base it in something, right? They're not just making it up, but I wonder what they twisted.
We're doing well.
So the next one compares, we finally have the.
But it's actually funny is because if everything Trump's saying is true and we're doing well and it's a golden economy and things are running hot, that is exactly the environment where you don't want to lower interest rates.
And so what I did was I compared the record in Donald Trump's first term with the Joe Biden first term. And you can see that.
I can see
by
it,
the way,
yeah.
just these dotted lines here, Mr. President, that's COVID. So if it had not been for COVID, these numbers would have been substantially better. But even taking account President Trump last year.
This guy's such a toady. Oh God, it makes me disgusted. He felt even scared that this small line down part would be, he had to make sure. Anyway, this is Trump's first term versus Biden's first term. What the are we talking about? It's 2025. Even if these numbers are real, which I don't think they are, but even if they're real, what the are we talking about?
2020, we saw a $6,400 real after inflation gain in income for the average family. And that compares with Joe Biden, which was a measly $551. So, Mr. President, you gain 10 times more income for the average family than Joe Biden is because of your policies.
I can't believe we're still talking about Joe Biden.
Into consideration COVID,
Yep.
which a lot of times you don't have to do that, but
we were
I'm very glad you did.
We were over
No, we were
almost 8,000 until.
Look at that number.
Okay. So then we looked at
Me, dude. Fuck
families
me.
did the best. And we have data from the Census
Look at
Bureau
that number.
shows, by income percentage. So the 25th percentile is the lowest income, 75th percentile
Dude,
is
this
the
is
highest
crazy.
income. And what I find fascinating about this, Mr. President,
It's like he's still running against Biden. Biden's dead, bro. Nobody's talking about Joe Biden. He didn't even run in the last election.
every single income group did better under President Trump. But what's really amazing is look what happened under Biden. The lowest income group lost income under Biden. They were poor 4 years after Biden's presidency. No gain virtually whatsoever for the middle class. And the rich was the only group that did better under Biden, which is ironic because Biden keeps saying he was trying to get rid of income inequality. He made income inequality worse, not better. It was President Trump that reduced income inequality.
Thank you,
Numbers
President
just
Trump.
came out, by the way.
Why does he keep saying these numbers just came out? Why does he keep saying that? It's so weird. All of the data is from 2020 to 24. It's just...
These are the numbers just I just showed you in percentage terms, Mr. President. These are the numbers in dollar terms. So even the lowest.
I think I gotta move on. Does he have a summary?
This is better than anything. If you look at this, this is great. But this chart is pretty amazing right here.
This chart's not real. This is comical, bro. You can't fire the head of the BLS, bring in the guy that wrote Trumponomics, say you've got all new numbers and they're all lines going up and like everything's fucking great. They're not great. They're just not great. It's not, it's fucking crazy. It's not just Trump. I always will give that caveat because I'm a fair guy. It's not just Trump. Things were looking bad before him. But listen, I gotta be honest with you. Nothing has had a more measurable negative impact than fucking a massive trade war with the rest of the world. But the idea that they're getting better is crazy. It's just not true. As of midnight last night, reciprocal tariffs took effect from Donald J. Trump. Finally, after 90 days of delays, then 7 days of delays, and then in some cases still more delays that go on after this, but a huge swath of new tariffs rolled out on these countries. The countries in orange got a brand new rate. And again, that means goods that are leaving these countries starting today, when they arrive in American ports, there are going to be a tariff charged on them that should theoretically increase the cost of when they're bought by American citizens that pass along the cost. However, I want to be clear, the effect of this will not be felt immediately. I checked into this because any goods that are currently being shipped, as long as they are marked on the manifest they left before midnight today, will not get a tariff when they arrive at the port. Like if there's already something being shipped from India, if it's in the water, it does not get a tariff. So it'll still take a bit for new stuff to go in, but the idea is that that's happening. So now there's a lot of effects to this, but the one I wanted to talk about, I want to follow up on because we talked about it yesterday, is what's going on with India, which kind of got like a surprise addition to this. Like the new tariffs on India kind of came out of nowhere. Previously, there was this whole thing where Trump and Modi were hanging out and he was saying they were going to make India great again and make America great again. And together it was going to be mega. Where everything's great again, but now they're a bit at odds. Trump is apparently extremely mad that India is buying Russian oil, and so he's throwing a big tariff on India until they stop buying Russian oil. Again, this is undermining the previous American strategy of becoming friends with India to be a counterweight to China, since they don't really get along. Now, we talked about how that was going to possibly drive India more towards China. I just wanted to follow up because that is happening right now. Modi, for the first time, is going to visit China. First time in 7 years. Xi Jinping and Modi are going to meet in China. The movement is happening. So that's one of the first order effects. I think the big question everyone has, though, and I think what was shocking about today, is that the tariffs did go out. They are now in effect. No delays, at least on all the ones seen here. And the stock market responded with a resounding who cares. Stock market didn't move. Now, back in April, the same announcement of tariffs was hit with a pretty bad stock market response. Some of it could be the stock market pricing in that things won't happen. It's tough to say. I think bond yields, which is debt, America's borrowing costs, rose a little bit, and gold rose. But in general, the response from all markets was a resounding meh. We don't know what it'll mean. It just seems like people need something bad to actually happen. They need like real price rises, real hits to earnings, real something before anything actually responds in markets. I continue to hold this stance, which is that, we're in a bad economy. Last week's data dump confirmed that, which is like the terrible jobs numbers. Consumer spending is flat. Outside of the top, let's say 10% of people. Construction and manufacturing are recessionary. Like they're both actually just shedding jobs hand over fist. Manufacturing is not growing in America and employment is going to get worse. That's the general stance that I have. But the main thing is about inflation. So the one thing that did surge today is inflation expectations, which did spike up. We never got back down to 2%, which is the goal, which is down here, by the way. We never got back down to 2% ever since the huge spike in 21 and 22, but now they're starting to spike again. And the general sense that I have is that we've been spared thus far from the tariffs hardcore causing price raises, but that over the coming months, it will get worse. Possibly wrong, we'll see. But I think that is what we're gonna see, is that over the coming months, the effects of the higher importing costs will lead to higher prices, which is not great if you're not growing. So we're gonna have to see. Something's gonna break. So something will either happen or it'll just go crazy. I don't know. It depends. Well, actually, there's two things that'll happen. One is that the courts could block these tariffs eventually. The only thing that can stop America's greatness would be a radical left court that wants to see our country fail. That's what DJT was saying on Truth Social. He's saying that because there is finally a movement, including with some Republicans. I think former Speaker Paul Ryan was spearheading this, that basically says the Constitution is very clear that the power to tariff rests with Congress, not with the president. And he shouldn't have the power to unilaterally set tariffs on a whim on all these countries. Again, some of these were out of the blue. They had a deal with Japan. The Japan deal got a 10% new tariff like yesterday, after the deal. What is the point of signing a deal if after the deal he can just change the rate? Possibly there's a legal challenge that removes his ability to set tariffs, but if not, these are now in effect and should have a real impact. What is happening, though, is the job market. Now, we've talked about this. Most companies are actually not doing mass layoffs. There is a good amount of layoffs, especially in tech, but most companies are just completely frozen on hiring, which is why there's actually a big divide if you interview people about the economy, if they have a job or if they don't. If they have a job, they're generally feeling okay, even as things price rise. But the second you leave your job or find yourself to be searching for a job, it's way worse. The number of hiring has just completely been frozen, which is why the group that's getting hitting hard, and this could be part of my bias. Again, I hear some of the worst stories about the job market, but I think my audience is generally more male and generally more college educated. And that is actually the group that is getting hit the absolute hardest. Male college grads have never had this bad of a jobless rate in like my adult life. Male college grads employment rate is now the same as non-grads, which has never been a thing. These lines have never merged like this. And it's particularly bad. Like, they're just not seeing any advantage from the college degree, which probably explains the huge surge of people looking into trade schools and blue collar employment and whatever, because this is a real and like historically anomalous data set. It's odd. This is including the gig economy. This is including the gig economy. So it's weird. It's just weird. I don't know what to make of it.